The following program is rated TV MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
I got the business in the front and party in the back. Whenever I pass by, I give women heart attacks. I don't gotta work out, I let the mullet flex, no stress. The follicle fountain's in full effect. Word to my boy Riff, word to my man Theo. My lady broke up with me cause she's sick of my damn ego. If you don't like my mullet, I don't want you anyway. Now she's all up in my DMs and texting me every day cause she misses it. Used to say I look ridiculous, but now she envisions it on other dudes when they're hitting it. She's got a broken heart and nothing to fix it with, and I got a sore scalp from other chicks that are gripping it. When I got my hair cut, the barber said sure, and she started buzzing with a wide smile. And when she got done and I was walking out the door, she said it's more than a hairdo, it's a lifestyle. My mullet, my mullet, it's my mullet. I really don't think you...
Greetings and beatings to my mullet militia and all my fellow fanatics across the world. You've now turned into Mac the Mullet Show. We got a special episode this evening on this wonderful July 4th weekend. I'm accompanied by my guest, Connor, the Irish icon McKenna, and the one, the only, the menace, the Wichita whirlwind, a.k.a. Bubba the Menace McDaniel. Welcome, gentlemen. How you doing this evening?
How you doing? How you doing?
What's happening, Bubba? How goes it?
Just sitting up here on the weekend, trying to recover from last night, hanging out.
Nice. You got any 4th of July festivities going on?
Man, tell you the truth, I'm probably just gonna run around with the new baby and everything, and see what's going on July 4th day. Take some time to train my son a little bit because his little match he's got coming up the weekend after. So, other than that, man, just a normal day through the household, but getting to have the day off of work.
Cool.
Yeah, I figured I'd stay home this year because I kept being a distraction down there at the fireworks show. Because when the big guns show up, nobody want to watch for a little bit of pop house they got going on.
You got them WMDs rocking.
For sure. So get us started, Connor. I'll let you do the honors.
So I just wanted to ask you, what got you into fighting? What got you into throwing them hands and getting down and dirty?
All right, so long story. We'll go the short version, but at the same time, man, I was doing tough man contests at 19 years old. You gotta think I'm 40 now, so 21 years ago, I was like, I hear this thing on the radio. I'm already bouncing at most of the clubs here in town and everything, and I was running around at the outskirts at that time. And man, I just heard on the radio, tough man contest, come out and see if you're the baddest, yada yada yada, and I'm like, let's go.
Yes,
so
sir.
I was 19, young, dumb, full of cum and ready to go. It was just one of those things. I was like, I'm going to go see how tough I really am. And whenever I went in there, I went and got waxed. I got waxed. First fight out the gate, this guy beat me all the way up. And we got into it like first round and a half. And the bad part is these are 3 1-minute rounds. So I went out with a blaze thinking, oh, this ain't no big deal. But yet I'm still smoking cigarettes. I'm still at the bar. I'm still, you know what I mean? Even though I'm 19, there ain't nothing good going on.
Yeah, you're living
I'm living a young kid life. I'm not living any kind of life of any kind of athlete. And I got smoked the rest of the fight after that. And I remember, man, being concussed. I stayed up and finished the fight and all that. But I remember that guy hitting me and my head looking one direction, then the other, then the other, then the other, then the other, then the other. I was just getting smoked. It was just like whop, 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 whop. And
it's like
I remember
flash.
Yes. And he was crushing my whole face for me for the last round and a half. You know what I mean? And I stood there, took some shots. I even got spun all the way around and came back fighting. You know what I mean? But I got introduced badly to Tough Man, and I was like, all right, like I got to do this again. So I did a couple more of those, and then 2004. It was just like, you know what? Let's figure this out and let's do some MMA. Because I found a few guys. We had Jason Maxwell had just gone off and fought Jens Pulver recently, and so it was a big deal in town that somebody was doing no holds barred, and it was kind of like, whoa, what's going on? I mean, it was to that point where people were like, do these guys like fight to the death or anything? And all that, like it was taboo still. And I was like,
human cockfights.
Yeah. I was like, I got to try this. You know what I mean? So went in, started training with these guys and got completely smoked every time I went in, every round, every second of every round. And basically went home and almost cried, like there were days you cry in the gym, but man, there every day, like you drive home, there's radio silence, everything. And then they found out I smoked and they were like, oh yeah, like we're going to kick you of that. And I remember my fifth day. Yeah, my fifth day, I'm picking a cigarette up, put it in my mouth. And I remember looking at it going, nope. You know what I mean? Like they made me quit cigarettes within a week. So that happened. And I ended up taking my first MMA fight within a month of actually training MMA. It was kind of wild. And after that, I was a pro by 2005. And just like, because then it was one of those things like you were either getting paid or you weren't. The fight rules weren't real different. I mean, I was fighting my amateur fights with pride rules with elbows. Yep. So you could hold somebody's head down in the corner of the cage and blast them with knees in the head. Yeah. Like you could get up and soccer kick, you could get up and stomp, you could do everything and elbow as an amateur.
Hell yeah.
You're just not getting paid. So it was like, well, let's get paid. You know what I mean? Like, let's get paid.
And that brings me to, that's kind of an interesting point because way back when, whenever Mac was a little just a wee man, and my loser brother Johnny went over to Tulsa, Oklahoma, had a fight King of the Cage. Well, I was going to Mikey Burnett's gym to train that week, and I was there. They was shooting this really good, this big strong wrestler, and then Gerald Harris, and they was talking about he had a fight that weekend as well, but it was in another event. We trained with David Heath the whole week, and put this way, Gerald Harris was a Division I wrestler, stud, going to fight the UFC later on. Well, that a couple of days later, we'd end up venturing off to that MMA event because I'm cut weight too. I'm fighting the next night, so I'm miserable. I'm not even really wanting to go. But we're there, and Arlovsky's doing photo signing and stuff. Well, the main event happens to be Gerald Harris versus this guy I started giggling, named Bubba. In my head, I'm thinking, Gerald's about to fight the prison guard, the guy around the prison, Bubba McDaniel. And I'm telling you right now, I didn't even know Bubba at this time. And after that fight, Bubba ended up coming up there short in the stick, but I was more impressed with Bubba because he literally had Gerald Harris in 10 triangle chokes. He power bombed him so many times. Bubba was just holding on. I was so impressed with Bubba. In my head, I remember thinking, he's one of them guys, if you're not in tip-top shape and on form, you beat him just away. He's tougher than nails. And I guarantee you, Bubba, it was a damn good scrap. And I remember.
I'll say this, man. Even Gerald to this day will be like, man, you were beating my ass. But at the same time, I took a bunch of slams, like he was saying. I took a bunch of slams. We worked on like trying to keep myself from getting taken all the way in the air. Yeah. Like I got slammed probably 6-7 times, just like probably waist height and on my head, and it hurt. You know what I mean? So you let things go. Then they had elbow rules that were different. So we had to like arch elbows instead of being able to do any kind of like elbow at all. And it was like, it really took away even my 3-6s. There was no 3-6. You couldn't do it. Or what is it, 3-9? Sorry, 3-9. You couldn't do 3-9 even. So you had to make that arch sideways. So I was sitting there like down trying to elbow this dude, hurt him as much as I can, but he's picking me up at every chance he can too. Ends up in the second round, I remember being on his shoulder and him standing up with me, and I'm like, well, this is like the 6th time for this one too, right? Yeah. I'm like, well, just take another slam. I'm going to end the round. And as soon as we hit the ground that last time, I had 2 ribs pop, and I separated 2 ribs.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was one of those that like I never got knocked out, but I was done. Very done.
Body's like, fuck that, you know.
Yeah, my body finally said, nope, that's too much. That's too much. And yeah, man, that's my first time to ever have a 6-month layoff from injury. And it was a bad one for a little while, man. Like having to keep my ribs tight, driving home after that was barely breathing the whole time. I remember looking at David Heath actually, through their cage because he was cornering Gerald and everything, and he was on the side of the cage where I was, and he saw me and goes, breathe. He's like, you have to breathe, you know. And I'm just like, you know, it was bad. It was real bad. So, but you know, after that, Gerald Harris went to beat it's Curtis. I can't remember who it is last name. I'm trying to think.
I'll give you all of them. Want me to tell you? He went on he was 4-1 in the UFC from Mikel Falco beating.
Well, no, I'm saying like he had a Curtis guy that he called up because he went to fight on the IFL. So right after me, he fought Travis Fowler in a great fight. Travis Fowler, I was there for that fight too, man. Like I didn't know who won that fight. Travis Fowler is one of those old school guys that just got out there to scrap too, and he got dumped a couple times and all that. I mean, it was a hell of a 5-round fight. It was just like watching these guys go back and forth was like, whoa. And Gerald got his metal tested. Well, then he goes in his next fight against a guy, I can't even remember his name, but he was a UFC vet. And the guy, he goes out there, man, ends up slamming him, knocking him. And I mean, it was just crazy. Like Gerald was on the map. And then after that, he's in the IFL. And then he's on the Ultimate Fighter. And I mean, Gerald just went real fast.
Yeah.
It was Curtis Stout that he slammed before he went to the IFL because.
There you go.
And he was a stud. And I'll remember because when he was in the
very
IFL,
much so.
That's whenever he had to get his game because I think he got submitted by, I want to say it was Fabio Leopoldo, maybe. And Benji Raddick gave it. Benji hurt him because Benji was a stud wrestler and it nullified him. He knocked him out. But he ended up, remember, he was the first one to give David Branch his first loss in the UFC when he knocked him out.
Gerald was the first UFC highlight on ESPN.
Damn.
The first by slamming David Branch, knocking him out. And I was just like, been there.
You almost wish it would have been you wish it would have been your head instead of your ribs, huh?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna tell you what, it is. Hey, I'm reading that. It says, is Dana White a pussy? Let me say this. No. Like that dude, I'm gonna say this. We've had some conversations where I asked him some questions that, you know, because you hear things, this, that, and the other. And we had a conversation and he stood in front of me and we've had little conversation. Dana is no pussy. Dana's got game about himself too. You don't get where you are and have the respect of people that you have the respect of by being a pussy.
No. Yeah.
That's true.
Imagine the people gunning for Dana White's head. You got to think about that guy's got everyone looking at him. He's got enemies up the ass. You think he's a pussy? You know, he walks the streets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree. Everything Dana White, there's a love-hate relationship with him. I'll just leave it at that. But he's definitely
well. That's the thing too, though, is like, you know, you got to love-hate with him, and I had one even too working for him, things like that. But you know, at the same time, I'm still working for the man, so you got to realize that. But then whenever it came to times that I needed him, and you know what I'm talking about, Mullet. I say so. One of those things I won't go real deep into, but that man had my back real deep one time that I really needed it, and a lot of people don't know about it, but I'll leave it at that and everything. The people that know.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that's part of the love I got for him right there because I know you understand. But it's admit the fighter in me still is a little protective over fighters because I'm past the phase of where the fighters wouldn't be where they are because the UFC. Well, they've got their due. It's time for the boys to start getting married. I'm going to be that way.
I'm to give off. You know.
Hey, and that's the thing. Each one is across the board. It's hard. I don't even want to put myself. It's hard to even think about that position, let alone trying to think about what I would do if I wasn't in this position.
Yeah, but that's a lot.
I wouldn't. First off, way too much awesome follicle. All my follicle fanatics would tell you this Indiana neck bandana's on fleek, isn't it?
It's looking good. It's looking good, my man. I ain't seen it look that good.
Oh, National Weather Report just came out. We call it the flood in Wichita. Okay, so that brings me to I don't want to fast forward, But Bubba, let me ask you a question. When was the first time that you thought to yourself that you could be a world-class fighter? I want to see if it's the same thing I'm thinking of, but go ahead and tell me, and I'll tell you when I thought it was. Go ahead.
All right, so world class, that was one of those things where I didn't know who I could compete with, you know what I mean, until I probably got to, I'm going to say till I got to Jackson's and really realized, like, okay, I do belong, you know what I mean? Because you always wonder, you want to be there, like, you know, there was times when I had contracts pop up, but I had other fights already scheduled and couldn't get out of contracts, things like that would have got me in the UFC. You know, like I say, I got on season 17 of The Ultimate Fighter, but I tried out for season 11 and 13, got on both, but then I got in trouble on 11 and they changed weight classes on 13. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's a different time period when you know that you're sitting there in front of world champions and all day long, y'all are looking at each other with the same look. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, this is where I belong. Yeah,
you're there with them. You're not looking up to them. You're there with them.
Right. Those were my boys. You know what I mean? At that point, like we had been in the trenches and everything and done it all. I'll say this. I don't know nothing about Tough these days because I ain't watched like maybe one season after mine. And this Tough, as far as I hear, sucks these days. But at the same time, it is what it is. Like I still got a love for that show and the people that are on it. Like I say, it's a different trip to be on that show.
Yeah. I can imagine. Like I just had my fight a couple weeks ago, and the hotel alone, a night before a fight, you got 3-4 floors full of fighters. It's like testosterone through the roof. You got boxing in the fucking hallway. Like it's 10:30 at night. You got, you've been on fight cards. You got some dudes who are fucking mentally unstable.
Very.
Like they're just up, like, yo, I'm gonna get it tomorrow. Like, let's fucking blah, blah, blah. Their brain doesn't fucking simmer.
Turn off. They don't turn off.
Yeah. But in my head, I was sitting there like, man, I wonder if this is like what it's like to be on The Ultimate Fighter, having motherfuckers all around, just like.
Well, here's the thing. My season was probably the most professional season that everybody was talked about. You know what I mean? Like we had seasoned professional fighters that were like new. Nah, I'm not messing around with this. I'm not messing around with that. We had a little bit of BS, with the guys that got out early.
Yeah.
But, man, there was a whole lot of nothing in that house. Like, we were really boring other than me being angry about cutting weight so much.
Yeah.
Bubba's the first.
I feel that.
Bubba's the first person to turn a Gracie black belt into a pink belt after Kevin Casey quit on the stool.
Yeah. I'll say this, man. That guy was scary to get in there with, honestly. And then once I put my game plan into motion on top, it went well. So, it definitely, I'll say this, I broke many a man from that position. So it's not just him.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What I love the most about it is he went from being he was bodyguard for Spencer off the hills. I said, you better hope Bubba don't show up when to pick a bone with Spencer.
Here's the thing, man. Why can't I get that bodyguard job stuff, man? Like, somebody call me up. I want to bodyguard somebody.
Yeah.
You're the reason people need bodyguards.
Yeah. I mean, good God. Let me go out and make some money. Like, come on now.
Yes, sir.
Start my damn OnlyFans, I guess.
Drive a fucking, a nice car for him, all that shit.
I mean, that's the thing, too, though, is I bounced long enough to where I know exactly what I can and can't do. Don't get me wrong. There's times that you do things you ain't supposed to do, but you got to have that little bit of swag with it.
Yeah,
just like if you're working the cage door and a rabid fan tries to run into the cage while Bubba McDaniel is refereeing was cage side actually. Bubba's seen some crazy stuff in the cage with the cage door, man. I guarantee he has, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The cage door guys, man. Honestly, it was my son this last fight too, so a little bit of wild there.
Oh yeah. We had an event where a guy didn't like that he had lost the fight. He's actually the same ref that got choked by Jason Guida at Elite XC, which preface how.
Here's the thing, man. I love John Manley. I don't know why people think they can just beat up on that guy. If you knew his pedigree too, like that guy's being real nice still. He's being professional. That guy can hurt people too.
Yeah.
And he got choked. Yeah. We want to go into that story?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll preface it with the irony is when Jason Guida done that, I was on the same show that myself and Bubba fought on, the very last Elite XC event they ever had. Guida got beat by Koladov, and he was mad at Manley. Fast forward, probably 6 months later, we're at an event, and a fighter loses, and he gets mad at John Stoppage, so he started to choke Manley by his throat.
Oh, yeah. By then, though, I'm training Manley for his own fight because I'm up in Indiana. He wants to fight, so he's getting trained for his own fight, mind you. And it went nuts after that. So all I saw was red. When I saw my guy getting choked by a fighter in the middle of the cage, I jumped in the cage.
Gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'm going to say. There's YouTube footage of it somewhere, and I'm not going to incriminate some folks and all that, but at the same time, there was a choke going on while another dude was getting uppercutted, being choked. Another guy got suplexed off of a top set of a stairs, getting into the cage. Like, I mean, there was some bad stuff that happened right there. That started a whole riot for a minute.
Yes.
It was an
My buddy Hunter Tucker's family was in also because Hunter was fighting that show, and their family was like, "Does it happen like this all the time?" I'm like, "It's the first time I've ever been a part of it, but you know."
I've heard stories.
Yeah.
The best part was it was in an armory. And my brother Johnny, the loser, was working the cage door, and he got sucker punched by the uncle of the guy who was in there. Thought it was going to be wise to choke John Manley. Well, when the punch came, I didn't even know what happened. I seen a flash, and next thing I know, I just seen a guy run up beside me next to the stairs. He's about 300 pounds. I couldn't lock my hands around him. But anyways, I just sent him into orbit. And Bubba looked over and says,
"Top step of the freaking stairs."
Jesus.
Disgusting.
Yikes.
Disgusting.
Statute of limitations are up, so we can get it on the roof if we want. And the best part,
bro, like that was Indiana didn't have a commission yet either.
Nope.
Right at that point, Indiana didn't have a commission, so I'm in there like getting ready. I'm freaking moving around for the fights too. I think I'd refereed that night even.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Manley was in there at that time, and I was getting ready to corner Hunter, and it just popped off.
It popped.
Yeah. There was video footage of it somewhere, and I know it was on YouTube for a little bit, man. And all you hear is boom when they both hit the ground, and it was like, oh, he's dead.
Put it this way: the GOAT JBJ himself was with you whenever I sent you the link years ago. And
yeah. Even John was like, "Oh, that's a big boy." when he said that boy went over the top, he's like, "That's a big boy." And even he was like, "Did he die?" I was like, "No, he's alive." But yeah, that was bad.
Fucking ride.
Yes, he saw stars twice. Stars as he's flying through the air, and then stars as he hit the ground.
Part of the universe for a second.
Man, real talk. You talk about 5, that was 10.
For me, looked like he ate too many starbursts of being kissing the stars, didn't he? Tickle Jesus' feet. But that brings me to my next set of questions. Bubba, if you're not aware, Connor, he would train with Team Wolfpack, which is there's a bunch of them still out there. It's founded by Gary Myers. Whenever the first event after I actually did meet Bubba wasn't the time when he fought Harris, but the next time I was in town promoting an event, it was the King of the Cage. They thought it was a good idea to put the cage in the middle of a casino parking lot, and it was 110 degrees. And I walked in. If I walked in, it smelled like there was fresh bacon in there. And then I realized it was just people's feet cooking on the canvas.
For real. People, who was it? Was it Aaron that pulled his bottom of his feet off?
Oh, yeah. Aaron York, yeah, he was fighting, and I started thinking it was Gregory Hines' nephew for a minute while he's tap dancing in there. And
that canvas would get fucking hot outside.
It was that yellow King of the Cage canvas because it was King of the Cage event, and it was in the sun, and they were going in with ice in the bucket and mopping down with ice in between and then drying it up real fast and getting people in there, and it was still blistering people's feet. Like, it blistered sole of his feet off.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
You on your back on that shit, get dragged around for a minute. Dude, that's fucking, you're toast. People were real bad about that. So the next show that was there, they put it under a tent. But we had another one afterwards. Live and learn.
Yeah, man.
That's the only person I've seen successful was in Vega from Street Fighter. Man, he would climb up the cage.
Yeah.
Your boy Johnny. It was Budnick. Johnny fought Budnick on that show. The old X Game
Yeah,
medal.
Budnick got in the WEC next fight after that, and that was a good fight, man. I thought it was a 3-round fight. Then they stopped it on 2, and I was like, what? Stopped it at a 2-round fight, and them boys were getting it though. Yeah, but Budnick went to the WEC after that, and Johnny Flores, man, like that dude was. We caught him. We caught him the flurry, man. Like that dude, at some point, he get hit hard, and you just see him just start going off. Yeah, he just let him go. He be coming after people. He was fun, man, and he was my main training partner for a long time. Whenever we both have fights together, man, I remember doing all of our learning strength and conditioning and stuff with him. And that guy was he was a 55er, so I'd have to work out with him. Even though he's a 55er, shoot, I was still only weighing like 190, 195 pounds at that point myself. So all my cuts were real little anyway. And I didn't know how to cut weight. And so I was a smaller guy, but hell, being 6'3", you know how it is. I don't have too dang much muscle on me at that weight.
Yep.
Bubba moved to Indiana.
Bill.
I'll never forget when you end up moving to Indiana and you said you thought you was going to be an outcast here. When you came here and said, man, I found somebody, might be a little crazier where I'm from. They say everything's bigger in Texas, but everything's grander in Indiana.
I'll say this though, like it was probably a really good thing for me to move there. I needed to move there because I met people that taught me how to actually like scramble a little bit. Because I knew jiu-jitsu, I knew how to wrestle just a tick. I mean, but I learned a little bit more with those guys in Indiana, and it made it to where I was able to hang with the things that I had been lacking for the last couple of years when I got to Jackson's and everything. And then we had Izzy Martinez, you know what I mean? Like Izzy showed me just little things that I needed. After that, got the team takedown, got to work with Kenny Monday and everything like that too. So I've learned how to wrestle my way. I still suck at wrestling, don't get me wrong, but for the scrambles and the cage work and the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm doing, I've had a lot of high level work and doing it again and again and again and again. So, and like I say, it started up there in Indiana. It wasn't anything that I knew. Like I remember Matt Jagger sitting there showing me that little sit through that he used to do. And I hit it in the training room. He's like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. You're too big for that. And I'm like, well, I'm just doing what you're showing me. You know what I mean? And so it was fun, like, having those guys there. Like we had Matt Jaggers, we had Josh Martin, we had Hector Urbina, we had Anthony Lapsley, we had Johnny, we had Jeremy Carver, and then had other guys that come in, like McCorkle came through the room, Sylvia came through the room, like all these guys that were there, JD Kraft, you know what I mean? Like freaking Kyle Kramer. Yeah, all these cats, man, like we all were a big group there, and it was good, to be, I was considered the coach. But at the same time, like, shoot, I was getting shown just as much as I was coaching.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's how you coach. The more you coach, the more you learn shit from, especially 100%. People who've actually had experience. You'd be like, fuck.
Yeah. Well, Sean Fallon, for starters. Sean Fallon came to us at like 240 pounds, football player. And I remember telling him, I was like, man, you better get your head together, man, if you ever want to try to do this. Now this dude's been down to like 155-pound fights and everything. He's fighting for Bellator at 185 now. Like, dude had a crazy ride. I remember watching just like on what was it? What was that show with Boss Rutan and then Inside MMA? Inside MMA, and all of a sudden I get Anthony Lapsley calling me talking about Sean just won. Oh my God, he just finished a head kick, getting beat up, and then all of a sudden he's freaking knockout of the week over there on Inside MMA. It was wild, man. Like this is decade ago. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like. Everything came full round finally for that guy too. Like we had a lot of studs up there, man, that were just out of nowhere studs.
Made themselves.
And every one of us, like you got to think, Lapsley or Bina and Hector's two little brothers even went to the Tough and the UFC. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. We were blessed to have each other and move around like we did.
Made each other better.
Yes.
And that's what it was, because we all, like Bubba was one of our coaches, but we taught each other mostly. And we had, like, you look around the room and every person in there was either a king of the cage, elite XC, fought everywhere in the world. It was crazy. And the thing is we'd go out to Militich, and when we was promoting fights, we'd get to train with any great school that was in the area. And it was, we had some crazy, interesting stories. I'll never forget going down to American Top Team multiple times. the great Mike Brown was. This is before Mike Brown was even WC champion. I'll never forget. I came back and told everybody, I was like, that dude's gonna be a world champion. He ended up being favorite twice. Gave me the nickname MMA Encyclopedia. But yeah, it's been a great time. I'm gonna come in with this week's Fight Focus Fact of the Week for Nerd Focus. If you want to roll it, David. Oh, yes, we're going. MMA hasn't always been the three-letter acronym that you know it to be. Actually, it used to be NHB for No Holds Barred. No Holds Barred was a terminology, it was factually incorrect because there were holds that were barred, such as eye gouges, fish hooks, and such. So where John McCain was calling the early UFC's human cockfighting. Well, step in Jeff Blatnick, a 1984 gold medalist who beat cancer 2 years before that, and fast forwarded 14 years and became the UFC commentator and the first self-appointed commissioner. Well, whenever trying to make it more the MMA, as we know it today, more professional, he's the one that's notorious for getting that started. At a meeting, he came and told all the fighters to stop referring to it as NHB and mixed martial arts. And from there, the terminology grew and grew and grew, and the sport that we know today is where it is because of that. I think Jeff Blatnick's one of the most underrated, underappreciated people that I think should get more notoriety. And I'm blessed to have known him, and that'll be your Nerd Focus Fact of the Week. Man, I have my way with words. I didn't rate the dictionary, though, but I do have my way with words.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a running back, but I'll fumble a little bit, but as long as I don't fumble the bag. So, Bubba, what happened last weekend? I heard some news like you was involved with it.
Yeah, I had my retirement fight, my man. My MMA retirement fight. Let's say this. If it ends up being my last one, period, I mean, that's what's going to happen. I'd like to have one more bare knuckle fight at least, but at the same time, if it doesn't happen, I understand. But the focus was to be done with MMA. So I had my last MMA fight before 28. It was in 2018 before this, and that was the same year that my son passed, and we had that tragedy hit and everything. Justice for Wilder, by the way, and piss on JS3. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But other than that, we got to the point where I had a guy come to me named Kelly Wiseman, and Kelly's an old school Militich guy and everything like that. If you know anything about history and all that, he was around when the boys were Militich were running the world pretty much.
Yeah.
And he comes to me and goes, so I want to have a show in Wichita Falls. He goes, and I can't do it without you. And I'm like, listen, man, I don't really feel like fighting MMA anymore. It's one of those things, like my back can't handle it. Like I've got a lot of injuries accumulated. I'm a little older. And I've done bare knuckle and loved it. To tell you the truth, I love bare knuckle. Like that was real cool to me. And it was just like the new exciting thing. And I was like, I want to do that again. But to make everything work, I had to be on this show. And he was like, well, let's talk about like things like that, what you want to get paid, yada, yada. I said, let's talk about me being involved. You know what I mean? So I told him like that and everything. So he was like, well, listen, you fight on this first card. Let's make it a success. Let's go over the top. We're going to go in the red a little bit and everything, but let's make this happen and we'll get together on that. So it ends up, I'm doing my work. I'm matchmaking and things like that, helping out with the show and all that. But I end up getting my fight against, to start with, was Tony Johnson from the Bellator, guy who knocked out Joe Schilling. Big, tough guy, man. Ends up, he had a fight a couple months before this fight was supposed to happen in Bellator. Ended up breaking his arm and in the second round, I believe, and still finishing the fight. Like tough guy, man. So he has to go get rods put in his arm, plates put in his hand, all on the same side. And so we're like, okay, he's on track to be okay by that time and be able to fight and everything. Ends up the man about 4-5 weeks later or something like that gets a bad infection in that arm and has to go back under the knife and has to have things changed up, gets on a bunch of antibiotics, all that. You know, Godspeed to that man that he didn't lose his arm, to tell you the truth, and a lot of things that could happen with that. And you know, we're all older guys too, though, man. So we're rooting for the guy that, you know, oh man, I hope you're all right. You know, like no matter what, Tony Johnson, man, I hope you're doing good. I hope to see you doing more things. Yep. But you know, he ended up having to bail. Well, at that point, I guess we're talking to Molina at that time, and Kelly is the one in contact with him, and he says, "Well, I got this guy Brian Houston," and I'm like, "UFC vet Brian Houston?" And he was like, "Yeah. Would you want to fight him?" I'm like, "Man, I love that guy." I was like, "Shoot, we lived together out in Albuquerque for a little bit. Like, he stayed with me out at the girl I was dating and everything. We stayed at her house together for a couple months. Like, we went to all the places that we did rehab, strength and conditioning, all that together. Like, that's my dude." You know what I mean? I was like, he ain't gonna want this fight. I was like, shoot, I'd do it, but at the same time, like, he ain't gonna want that fight. We ain't gonna fight. And I guess they asked him the same thing, and he was the same way. "Oh, I love him." He says, "I'd do it, but I doubt he takes it." So they tell me the same thing, and I'm like, guess let's fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a fight, no big deal. Yeah, and then at that, I get to see you again. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so ends up, man, I get Brian Houston to step in for me, another UFC vet and everything. So it was one of those, like, staying high level, stayed up there, wanted to be on a high level fight still. Didn't want any kind of like gimme fights. It was like, you know, we're gonna fight somebody tough. Yep. And I remember thinking, all right, if you get hurt in this training camp, you're in trouble because this guy's gonna be moving.
Yeah, you know how it works.
Yeah, like, and this thing too is, like I said, I remember getting out striking days and sparring in front of that guy the first time, and I remember him trying to flatten me with a 1-2 right off the bat, and I was like, this guy hits hard. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's got some power, and he likes to box. You know what I mean? He's been pro boxing since then. Yep. And so the thing is like, I got to be safe. And, you know, at that, the dude can wrestle. At that, the dude can grapple. You know, it's not that he doesn't have skills. He's a well-rounded, skilled fighter. So it was like, whew, okay, I know this guy, I love this guy, but we got business. You know what I mean? It's just business to handle. And went out, had my new little baby out there, had my son working the cage door, had all the Wichita Falls that wanted to be there. You know what I mean? Nice. And shoot, man, had a great production. Kelly Wiseman put a production together with a guy named Jason Mayfield down here. Mm-hmm. And even the state after the show was like, we haven't seen a production like this. We haven't seen a show like this in years.
It's tore it up.
So yeah, we did fantastic on that end of things and all that. You know, and obviously as the fights start and all that, I'm back there just, you know, I'm match made. I'm done. I'm in the back. I'm getting ready to fight. And I remember walking out and I was in the moment. You know, I had all my guys telling me, they were like, this is the one that you need to be in the moment for. Remember, win or lose, you need to be in this moment. You need to remember this. And I remember just walking out and fully being embraced with it and fully being in my moment. You know what I mean? And went out there, got a first round TKO win over a tough guy, man. It worked out for me. And you know, retirement on it from MMA was just, you know, that inevitable thing that, yeah, I didn't get to actually go out on my own terms in 2018. So it's always been a bother. You know what I mean? 2018 was a real bad year for us. And I just never fought MMA again, you know, injuries, things like that. Yep. And, you know, I kind of finally got to go out on my own terms in my hometown and, you know, on a crowd where we've got good production of it. So it's going to be able to be seen by everybody. And it was nice. It was real nice.
That's awesome.
Well, there's nothing more American than a guy named Bubba beating up a guy named Houston in Wichita.
Yeah.
See, these other guys, they say they live full circle, but they spell it FOOL. Us fighters got different little mojo to us. Notice how Bubba said his last MMA fight, he found that little loophole there. Next thing he says bare knuckle. Next thing he'll be trying to fight tiger knuckle, lion knuckle. Oh, I like it. Speaking of lions not cheap. That's a sick hat. I heard Shab has one that says lions not cheap. I'm sorry. I don't want everybody's IQ to drop a couple points talking about the Shab slob. It says, Bubba McDaniel, you are the man. You got a lot of fans on here tonight.
Hey, I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate everybody working and watching the show right there, man. Letting my boy Johnny do his work right there, too, you know?
You're right. The GOAT.
Man,
Bubba, when you say encyclopedia, people don't realize this man's IQ on watching fights, breaking down fights, anything is always high level.
Insane.
Always has been. There have been people that we hadn't heard of that he knows, you know, and he would break down fights and tell us what's going to happen, and we'd watch in amazement as it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, how did you even pick that? Like, off of the fights that you've seen and everything, he's got a real good eye for those things, and he breaks so much down. It's crazy. Yeah, y'all think it's a joke, but it's been like that for decades.
He's more than Mullet. He's more than Mullet.
Yes, sir.
That's beautiful, and I'll break character for that because that's very awesome for you to say. Justin James, I had on, who actually fought UFC vet and elite or extreme couture coach, said the same thing. Well, there's only a difference in artistic and autistic. Is a U and an R, baby. I think I got a little bit. I appreciate that. I remember Bubba would call me, and the best part about it is he's like, John, he goes, the best part is, he goes, I will call you, see what you think, and then he said he would he would talk to Greg, and he said they would almost be exact verbatim. He said, you even were a little more in depth.
Yeah, it was wild because we had breakdowns and all that, and we'd get together and watch tape and all that, and Johnny would ask for his breakdown, and it'd be spot on and with a little more detail. It was kind of wild. It was like, you're doing good. You're doing something, Johnny, man. Like, you know what you're talking about. So
and I look at it like paper, rock, scissors. There's always something that beats something. You just got to know when and what to pull out at that time. And the thing is fighting's all about tendencies, in my opinion. You can't. I don't believe in game planning much either because you can't ruin. If you don't have a game plan, it can't be ruined. A lot of guys try to, I think, get in there and try to fight too much to a game plan. But what happens is a lot of times things don't go as they visualize.
You forget to fight.
You got to flow like water, Bruce Lee shit, you know?
Yeah. By the way, I want to throw that out there. Tristan Carson, that was just on there, man. Tristan, I'm going to say something, dude. Like, I got to watch everything that you did because of that, man, also. And watch the path that you had for a few years, too. You are a full-on gangster yourself.
He's actually he's gonna start training. Actually, he had when he was at Wabash Wrestling, they had like the fraternities would do little boxing matches. And put this way, he was part of.
He went in there marking.
He dropped.
He's just that natural, like, gotta get it, man. Just gotta get it. His dad was fun too, man. His dad, you know how it goes. His dad was fun to watch fight. He got out there he wanted to scrap. So I remember reffing fights for his dad, man, just being like, these guys are nuts.
He's going for it. Yeah.
We tricked Tristan in because when we was young, Tristan was like 5 going to the cage with us. Well, he wanted to fight, so we lied to him and told him that wrestling was kid fighting. Well, the first time he went, he was trying to punch the kid. He goes, mind you, his voice was deeper than mine at 5. You guys lied. You can't punch. He was looking over. I just gave him some high C fruit punch instead. You know, he's a great young man. He just graduated. I love him to death. But
that's a true story.
True story.
Absolute true story.
Little animal.
Yes.
It was a different world back then with those Dons, dude. I'll tell you right now that there's one thing that I won't ever forget is whenever Bubba would come in and then he would be sweating. I'd be like, where you been? He's like, I just ran 5 miles. I was like, I might have done that like once in my life combined. He's like, bud, that's what you got to do. He goes, I think it's a different kind of cardio shape. But Bubba had one of those, I call it ghetto lungs, because he'll be in shape no matter what, even if he's not in shape. He would have to cut 25 pounds just to get down to start cutting weight. He was so lean, it was weird. He was the leanest fat person I ever met.
The only time Anthony Lapsley could tell that I was out of shape and weighing over 220 or something, he'd say I had a little bit of back fat come up. He'd come back and pinch it right behind my shorts. He'd pinch it. He goes, "Oh, you fat right now, huh?"
If I have a mic discrepancy, I might have to change him. I'm gonna have to put this one on and see what happens. You'll hear me.
That looks better anyway.
Let's see.
Yeah, we're losing Mike, buddy.
He gone forever.
No.
He's just out there going like this.
We have lost the Mullet's Mike.
Oh, man. Watch him rage out here in a second.
Oh, this comment's funny. McGregor should borrow Bubba's balls. He might actually fight again.
Here's what I'm going to say. McGregor's balls are somewhere off in a freaking tub of freaking testosterone that he's shooting in his own ass.
Yeah, dude. It's a fucking hot tub that's like $10 million.
Man, that dude. I'm going to tell you this. That guy disgusts me. He has for a long time. Like, you know, the overseas stuff where he's always acting a turd and everything like that. That isn't for the American audience. Yeah, the American audience doesn't know a whole lot about the McGregor freaking antics and all that. And once you hear about him, that dude's disgusting.
With dudes on yachts.
What's that again?
I said cuddling with dudes on yachts and shit.
Oh yeah, like, but even that, like, I'm talking about like the stuff that he does. It's like crime stuff. Like,
oh yeah,
he doesn't do like gangster crimes. He does like punching crimes.
Old lady.
Yeah, old lady, old men. Yeah. I'm gonna say he's a full on rapist in my book. Like, straight
up.
He
probably is, dude. Who knows?
Well, I'm gonna say this: if you know some of the overseas stuff, he's raped some folks and been arrested for other stuff, and you know what I mean, like. It ain't one of those things. Like, you get away with it because of stuff, but at the same time,
money,
like, people know. Yep.
The money,
people know. He's a full-on turd.
Probably drinking children's blood, too. Who knows?
Man, you never know what they do with that Illuminati crap.
Those motherfuckers, he's up there with Joe Biden drinking little kids up.
Man, that fool. Let's go,
Joe
Brandon.
Biden stumbling around. Brandon. Where am I? He's been a robot for a minute, but.
Man, that ain't no lie, too. You watch him mess up his scripts all the time. You're like, hey, bro, like, you got to stop.
He out there, he's like, yeah, I'm selling shit. Yeah. Everybody's like, who's selling what?
Yeah. I can't get with that program, man. I really can't. And that's the thing, too, though, is like, president's president. I respect the president.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm going to tell you like this, man, like, you need out of there now.
Dude, that guy's like, did I wipe my ass?
Hey, and here's the bad part. Nobody wants Kamala as president. But right now, put Kamala in, bro. Like, something, tag her in. This is crazy.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Take her straight from Maury's hip on the red carpet and tag her in.
Right. Greatness called. I had to answer greatness called. It wouldn't be a Bubba show if there wasn't a little bit of mystery to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I checked out. I heard the P words come up. Politics.
Politics, yeah.
I was worse than politics than a pile of bed bugs. Ticks are pretty bad too, but I wasn't one of them pile of bed bugs. So, Bubba, do you have anybody you want to shout out this evening? Anybody you want to give a little? Is there any fighters we need to be on the lookout for that you might want to give one out to? Shout out.
That's the thing. We had a guy on our show named Philip Latu. Philip is a little bit older and everything, but man, that guy had knockout of the night. Like, he got out there and fought another tough guy named Maurice Morris, and they got into it, man. And I mean, Phil just hit this sick flying knee, like, and he fucking doubled the jump knee, and man, hit it, and it was just like, good God. I got to give you a credit. Here's the thing. That guy is supposed to be a 205er, and he fought a heavyweight kickboxing tournament not too long ago for XFN down here that's on Fight Pass. In a heavyweight 8-man tournament, he ended up getting to the finals and losing a split decision. And he's just a cat that is out there getting it. I trained with him one time, and one round was all I could last. I was breathing to save my life. And I wasn't in shape at the time, but at the same time, like, this cat was pushing me. I remember him standing in front of me, and I took him down 3 times, and I got on top of him, got to punch a little bit, but he got up 3 times also.
Yeah, he's a dog.
He's a dog.
Yeah.
He's a dog. And he had Razak Al Hassan come down. Razak showed up at the last minute to corner him and everything. And so if you know Razak's coming out of the woodworks to come and corner him and all that, he's up there getting the work. And Phil Latu is a guy that was on our show that I got to give credit to. Like, he went out there and killed the game.
It was the knee the Bubba speaks of. When he threw the double knee, it's almost like if you ever try to hold focus mitts for somebody and the timing's off a little bit and you miss to meet the pad, it comes up the top. When he threw the knee, the guy, they braced himself for the one, and he thought, oh, it's cut forward. Here comes the next one. Took his head off.
All the way off. Yeah, he flattened, full back. It was a full-on. Yeah, he was a board falling backwards.
And speaking of, anybody would know about some flying knees on board Bubba.
Yeah, that Shlemenko, appreciate you. Yeah. I've been on the bad side of some stuff, but at the same time, man, people forget I was doing pretty good in that fight till then.
Yeah. Kevin Holland. You think Kevin Holland, in my opinion, in Muay Thai.
Well, the thing is too, though, think about all the fights that I've been in, like, that I've lost, that people are like, oh, you're a pussy. Yo, I remember armbar and going to armbar Kelvin Gastelum. And when I went to armbar him, I was like, you know what? I got that easy. I'm gonna try that again later. I'm gonna try to TKO this kid.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I got it. I still got it in the bag. And then all of a sudden, he came to life. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, it's a new book. That guy wins the whole show, everything like that. You know, I lost to Uriah Hall. I lost to Sean Strickland. You know, like those are Brad Tavares are my losses and stuff. You know, like Emiliano Sordi.
Yeah, those
in,
are
Bellator.
You can't say shit about like
who's top fives, top tens, and you got people that'll be like, "Oh, you're a pussy. I saw you lose." I'm like, you didn't see me losing to no fucking Punk though.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
People also, you beat Calahos, who was the Icon World Champ. You dog walked in pretty good too.
In a non-title fight, yeah, while he was world champ. Got out there, and hey, I'm gonna say this: that was one of the cooler cats that I came across too, though, because in Hawaii they were upset at that point.
Yes, they were. Return of the King. That was a night. That was a big event, actually.
Yeah, that was Nick and Nate. We met Nick and Nate and hung out with them. Me and Hunter hung out with Nick and Nate for the first time out there because they had that Mushin Corbury fight and got into it with KJ Noons in the cage afterwards. Yeah, we had a long night that night too. That was a good time.
KJ, I was glad when Crazy Horse, the very first ever Elite HC event, me and Jaggers actually got to work, and it was Henzo and Shamrock in the main event. And actually, the Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner of the women's division, in my opinion, is Julie Kedzie and Gina Carano, one of the better women's fights that helped put it on the map.
Yeah, that was a good fight. That was a good fight. I like Julie, man. Julie was always good to me, man. I never got to meet Gina. She was gone like the month before I came to Jackson's. Yeah. But Julie was dope.
Yeah, it was that's the name. A lot of people didn't get to see this, but off camera, KJ Noons was sitting there saying he's going to knock out Crazy Horse and put his gold teeth on eBay. And
man, he should have. Tell you the truth, he was supposed to. Just didn't work out that way. Crazy Horse is just that.
Yep.
He just won the Pride Rising Stars tournament, and the funny part about it is whenever KJ was saying all that, Horse wouldn't even acknowledge him because I think he was watching Gina Carano weigh in her underwear. But I could be.
I'm not gonna lie.
Crazy hit him so hard that when he hit him, he went down to a knee, and then after it was done, this is where Kaepernick made taking a knee cool. He done a backflip on his courts. And poor KJ, he got up. I was like, he thought he was just JK, and he KO'd KJ. It was brutal. But it made up for that main event. It was a speech fest. But, man, I'll tell you right now, Bubba, one fight I always wanted to see was you versus Joey Chestnut in the eating contest. This man right here, he speaks of my mental aptitude in mixed martial arts and encyclopedia. If I'm that, then he's a damn thesaurus of buffets. He's a Bubba, what's the most you've ever ate?
I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Like I've ate a lot of things in my time, and I got to the point where people were like watching me eat on cheat days, like because I would just sit there and mash food. Like again, I would sit at buffets and go crazy, or I would sit at like eating contest stuff and just mash whatever they thought was an eating contest. Well, I'll say this though, I can't do that anymore. My old age finally caught up, and my metabolism slowed down a lot. But man, those days that we'd have off, Tim Sylvia even sat beside me and was like trying to eat with me. And even he was like, dude, how the hell do you have this much room in your body? Like I remember we had it was at the brew house up there in Muncie, Indiana. What was it called?
There was brew house. Bubba's Burgers where I seen you the burger they said.
Well, yeah. I ate two of them. That 24-ounce burger. Yeah, ate two of them that day. And honestly, the bad part is I found out they were going there, and I had just finished eating. And they were like, we're going over there to do the challenge. I'm like, well, I got to go do the challenge. So I got there, and I remember eating one of them still. And I was like, damn, my belly's full. You know what I mean? Because I just ate like an hour earlier. And my manager at that time goes, you eat a second one, I'll buy it. Because you have to buy these things too. Like, it was not cheap. And I was like, you're buying the second one? He goes, you got to finish it, though, or you're paying for it. I was like, bet. So the thing is, they put it out there. I slammed the second one. And then they brought us ice cream, and I was like filling in the gaps. You know what I mean? Like I was smashing food back then. And then sweet tea. I'm still a sweet tea guy. You could set a freaking gallons of sweet tea in front of me, and I would just crush it while I'm going too. People are surprised I didn't go into a diabetic coma.
And what the funny part is, the last thing I'll say before we got to get off here was we talk about the universe going full circles. We was at King's Buffet, and it was all you could eat steak. After you pay, it was like $5 all you could eat steak. and we go up there and tip the chef $2. I think I paid him food stamps one time maybe, but anyways, it was all you wanted. I'll never forget whenever we was there with our manager and we was sitting there, and that weekend John Jones was fighting Ryan Bader, and I bet our manager that he would beat John Jones because nobody knew about him. I said, John Jones a ragdolling. And he said, he's a Division I wrestler. I said, well, you're going to learn this weekend. He strangled him. And then not even a year and a half later, Bubba was down there training with him. It's just the way the world works, isn't it, buddy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's been an awesome episode, guys. I wish I didn't have to wrap it up, but I would like to send it off. Bubba, you can say you want to talk to? Say on Bob.
Man, I just whoa, something came in there. I want to say that anybody who has supported me in my career at any time, like even Mark Limerick up there in Indiana, that was the boxing coach, people like that. We've had so many people come in and out of my MMA career that have helped me. Anybody who's anybody, like I can't even say everybody's names. It'd be so many hundreds of people that made my career possible. There's not just like I say, there's not a certain team or a certain name that I can just stop with. So anybody who's ever helped me through my career, man, every one of y'all are awesome. And like I wouldn't be the person that I am or have the career I had without everybody that came into it. Because if it wasn't every person in there, my trajectory had gone somewhere else. You know what I mean? So I appreciate everybody that ever helped me out in my MMA career and got me to where I got to go. And I got to have my dream come true and winning a fight in the UFC and something that I never thought was possible. You know what I mean? Like as a guy starting out way back when, you know, like I was a picked on kid in high school. So everything to be changed around like that for me and to be one of the guys that comes out the tough guy in the end. Yeah. You got to work for that. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't come
You earn that
from anything but hard work. Yeah, that was just hard work. Yeah. And, you know, because I'm not the toughest guy. I had to learn a lot of skills, and I learned them all the hard way. And like I say, I love everybody for it.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, it's been a great episode. Matt, looks like there was a little technical difficulty, but there he is. The man signing off.
Yeah. He's gone again. I can't hear you, son. I can't hear you. Hey, let's say this, Mac the Mullet, you the man, brother. I'm so stoked that you've been able to do this for everybody.
I'll speak for Mac the Mullet. Mac the Mullet is the fucking man. Unfortunately, he's having some sound difficulties, but it's okay because he has a big dick to compensate for it. So
there you go.
Woo! Thank you very much to Bubba McDaniels for coming on the show, an MMA pioneer and MMA legend. Congratulations on your retirement. Well fucking deserved, my friend. And also Connor McKenna and Mac the Mullet signing off. We'll see you next week on Amazon Prime. Take it easy. Lemon squeeze it. Peace.